So everybody, you might have noticed that Apple did release iOS and iPadOS 18.1, which brought the inclusion and the debut of Apple Intelligence and their AI and that whole ecosystem that comes with it. Now again, this is going to be a beta 1, this is the first iteration of it, so there isn't a lot of the feature sets that Apple promised during WWDC. For the most part, it's just going to be writing tools and then integrations natively into the applications, a little bit more context rules with Siri, and of course all the new animations. But even though it's still early days when it comes to Apple Intelligence, I do think Apple's going about this the right way, and I actually think Apple's going to be able to bring Apple Intelligence and AI into the mainstream and kind of get rid of that stigma that most of the population has, which is that it's more bad than good. So here are 5 reasons why I think Apple is going to be able to bring AI and Apple Intelligence into everybody's both workflow and personal flow on their iDevices. Let's get into it. So before we get started, these are just my thoughts, and I would love to have an open discussion down in the comments about what you think about Apple Intelligence. Have you installed it on your personal device? Again, it's beta 1, so it's still a little bit glitchy, sometimes it doesn't work, and I wouldn't fully recommend it if you aren't willing to take that risk, knowing that something could happen to your device. But if you did install it, let me know in the comment down below what your experience has been like so far with the brand new Siri, as well as the brand new Apple Intelligence. But the first reason why I think Apple Intelligence is going to be very successful, especially in the long term, is that it's going to be natively built into all Apple devices that can support it from a hardware perspective. So again, I will put on the screen which devices support it. It's basically an A17 Pro chip built into the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max, and then any M-powered device moving forward. So any M-powered iPad as well as any M-powered MacBook or Mac computer. But what I mean when it's built in natively into the OS is that you don't have to go into a separate chatbot, you don't have to go into a separate widget, a separate application. Everything is built in natively into all the different Apple applications, as well as third-party applications that are going to be building it with their SDK moving forward. So it's very easy to go into any text, whether it's in Safari or in Chrome, or if you're in Slack or in iMessage, if you're in Notion or in the Notes application, you quickly just touch on some text and then all of a sudden the writing tools pop up and you have all these AI assistants and kind of features at your disposal without having to leave. And the perfect kind of, I guess, analogy that I can pick up with for people that have, let's say, the M4 iPad Pro with the new Pencil Pro is that everything is within reach and a lot easier, right? With the new Apple Pencil Pro, it's now much easier to switch between the different tools that you're using. There's much less friction. It's easier to use. The same thing applies with the new AI implementation when it comes to native applications. It's very easy to implement, it's very easy to turn on, it's very easy to just quickly tap your cursor on whatever text you're going on and then be able to have it kind of rewrite it in a formal way, rewrite it in a playful way, proofread it, check for grammar, whatever the case is, because you don't have to leave it, you don't have to copy and paste it to another application. And overall, it's just a much more frictionless and efficient way to implement AI, and it also doesn't feel like you're using the traditional version of AI which has been around for the past 2 or 3 years. So that is a perfect segue into my second reason as to why I think Apple's going to be able to make Apple Intelligence so successful, and that's going to be, I guess, the safe nature of this version of AI, right? Because right now in the public, if you really ask a lot of people that aren't in this tech world, the stigma is pretty on the negative side. Sure, there are some use cases here and there to help people write letters and emails and kind of put grocery lists together and things like that, but a lot of people think that it's something is going to happen long term that isn't actually a net positive for humanity overall, right? Obviously, there are some bad actors in the world that can use AI for bad things, just like any other technology, but Apple, the way that they're implementing it, is going to be with safety first. And again, it doesn't feel like you're using a chatbot, or it doesn't feel like you're going into ChatGPT and talking to an actual bot. It just feels like another tool, similar to how way back in the day, if you ever used Microsoft Office and you had a little paperclip assistant where it would let you know what to do and how to maybe indent, kind of little features that it taught you how to do. This is what this feels like right now. It feels like a tool built into every application that allows you to get your job done and get you from point A to point B that much quicker. So it doesn't feel like you're using Apple Intelligence or artificial intelligence for that matter. It just feels like you're using another tool that Apple has put over top of their entire OS that allows you to kind of complete your tasks that much more efficiently. The next thing is going to be the power of the ecosystem as well as third-party developers and the SDK, right? We all know that if somebody's trying to create an application, for the most part, especially here in the US, they're going to develop it for iOS first, and that is because there's a lot more distribution from the App Store and the amount of iOS and iPadOS users, so the same thing is going to apply for third-party applications to adopt Apple Intelligence directly into their applications through the App Store and through being able to distribute it to iOS devices across the US and of course across the globe once it does become available, because unfortunately it's only available in the US for right now. So developers knowing that that is the case for third-party applications applications and being able to get people to install and adopt their applications, building AI into their applications and building them natively, not only at the OS level, but then on the app level, is going to be a game changer for a lot of people, especially from a use case standpoint. I'm sure developers are going to be able to get very creative in how they implement Apple AI and artificial intelligence, but it is a net positive to have Apple AI built into all these third-party applications, so you do get the same type of experience from an OS level and per app level as well, which will make everything in the transition into it much easier. And again, it's going to go back to that second reason, which is that it's not going to feel like you're using AI, it's just going to feel like things are getting easier and more efficient overall. Now this next one is going to be all about Siri, because Siri for the most part, especially compared to the competition, has been the runt of the litter when it comes to AI assistants and things like that. Google Assistant has always been so much better than Siri. Same thing even with like Bixby, Alexa, everything has been better than Siri when it comes to a voice assistant overall. So now having Siri implemented and working in conjunction with Apple Intelligence makes Siri a lot smarter. Now again, we're still in the beta 1, so some of the promises still aren't there yet, but you can tell in some instances that Siri is building on context. So especially if you ask it native questions like how to do something on your phone, and then ask it a follow-up question, context rules are a lot easier. And then same thing goes when maybe you're asking something, but then you want to take it back, and then you want to ask it something again. It's going to be able to get through all that minutia and actually understand exactly what you want. For instance, a good example is when you ask it, what the weather is in Florida, but then you say, oh wait, never mind, actually what's the weather in New Jersey? It'll actually take all of that context and all of that audio and then transform it into what you actually want, which is the weather in New Jersey. So again, all these context rules and making Siri more contextually relevant and contextually aware is going to really level up what Siri can do moving forward, especially against the competition, which is the Googles and the Samsungs and the Alexas of the world. And then also goes in with the third-party implementation and the native nature of everything, because Siri is going to be able to pull information from all these applications to give you all these different steps, as well as all the information that you would need when you are asking it. It doesn't maybe take you to an application. It doesn't kind of give you a summary from Siri. It'll actually tell you exactly, it'll actually pull information from a certain app to then show you what you wanted, and then also use context rules to maybe show you something else from another application and conjoin it together to give you one solid answer on some of the things that you're personally looking for, as opposed to maybe just information out there on the internet. And then lastly, it's going to be all about privacy. And we've learned over the years, Apple has invested a lot in terms of letting people know and making them feel comfortable that their data is encrypted, their data is secure, their conversations cannot be seen, everything is on device, Apple isn't looking at stuff. Of course, Apple can have access to it from legal matters and things like that, but even then, that's kind of a gray area of what's allowed and what's not allowed. So having a privacy-focused AI assistant, the Apple Intelligence, is going to make people feel a lot more comfortable. For instance, when OpenAI came out and ChatGPT, nobody knew where that was really going when it first started. Of course, they had their statements and stuff like that, but again, nobody's gonna have a big of megaphone as Apple does when it comes to speaking all this privacy jargon and all this talk. For instance, at WWDC, yeah, they spent over an hour on Apple Intelligence, but I want to say about half of that was all about privacy and explaining to the user where all the information was coming from, and then everything is going to be on device, as well as everything's going to be on private servers that only correspond to your data and your data only, and it's not going to be looked at by other people. And then also, there's a whole web that can be kind of tracked backwards, and then even from a person level, you can actually understand what's going on from a privacy perspective and then chase it down and kind of see the root of where everything came from. The only time that's going to leave your phone is when it does go to ChatGPT, which is still not available in beta 1, but it'll tell you over and over again, and every single time it does that, it will ask for your permission. So knowing that there's a big privacy focus when it comes to Apple Intelligence is going to be a huge game changer. And one thing that I do want you guys to look at is if you are on iOS 18.1 beta 1, if you go into your settings, go into the privacy and security, there's actually an Apple Intelligence report that when you scroll all the way to the bottom, you can actually tap on. It's going to ask for your Face ID because this is all the information that you've spoken to when it comes to Siri. And then you can actually report the duration of 15 minutes, 7 days, or never. And then you can actually export all that information as well. So if you really want to play with it and you really want to understand what you've been saying, what's being reported, how often it's reported, you can actually go in there, and this is for any user that's on iPadOS 18.1 or iOS 18.1. And again, it just goes back to Apple being very privacy-centric. So that is my fifth and final reason as to why I think Apple Intelligence is going to go mainstream and why Apple is going to be very successful bringing this forward. But those are my 5 reasons, everybody. Apple's in a great spot to really bring this forward and really show people the power of what Apple Intelligence can be and how AI can be used to better your life, as opposed to being this weird chatbot that you don't really know what's going on. And yes, it'll answer your questions, but you don't know where it's going. The data privacy situation is kind of unknown. When it comes to Apple, Apple knows that we trust them. Apple knows that they have this kind of brand recognition of privacy and being and doing the right thing and all that. And of course, it took Apple years to build that kind of reputation and that kind of trust with its end users. So Apple's really focusing into that and going full tilt into that by saying that they're going to be the same kind of privacy focus on the Apple AI front or the Apple Intelligence front. And I think by doing that, Apple's in a great position to really make sure that Apple AI is used correctly, but then also that it's used efficiently as well as with a privacy focus. So that's my 2 cents on the 5 reasons why I think Apple's going to be able to bring this forward. Let me know in the comment down below what you think. Is this something you're excited about? Are you worried about it? You know, what situations do you think that maybe aren't spoken about quite yet that could lead to some issues? I also think that's why Apple's rolling this out so slowly, is because they want to make sure they're controlling as much as they can control of a seemingly uncontrollable kind of category when it comes to technology. But that'll do it for this video, everybody. If you did make it to the end, leave a little dolphin. And if you made it to the end, that means you're a supporter. Definitely consider maybe subscribing to the channel as well as becoming a channel member to get some awesome wallpapers. The wallpapers for August should be released relatively soon, so definitely check those out. But if you guys want to watch more videos like this one, YouTube thinks you're going to like this video right here. And if not, this bottom video is one that I chose that I think you're going to like. But that'll do it, everybody. I'm Fernando, and I'm out of here. Peace. Leave some comments down below about Apple Intelligence. Curious to talk about it.